a video that has been making the rounds online. And this video is from somebody called People Make Games. Now, this video is old. And the reason why, and by old, I mean like a little under a year, but the reason why they keep bringing this up is quite frankly because the person who made this video keeps responding in his own thread and keeps trying to hype up the video over and over and over again to keep getting clicks over and over and over again. But not many people knew about this video up until recently. So let's check out this video and see what we got to say. Let's see. Let's look at this really quick. Let's bring it up. So it's called People Make Games. And the title of this is, what is it really like working at Valve? We found out. Now, a lot of people treat Valve a little bit differently than other companies. And the reason why is because Valve is still a private company, right? Valve is not a public company, so Valve does not have all of their information out there for the world to see like other public companies do. And so when people go digging into Valve, they kind of treat it as like, a little bit of a mystery where they're trying to figure out what's going on over at Valve, especially since Valve is an extremely profitable and extremely successful company. So, in a successful company in the gaming industry that's not public, not exactly something that you see very often. So this person made a video, and there is a section in this video, and it's a very long section. It's about 18 minutes in. We're going to react to the whole thing. But 18 minutes in is the part that everybody watches, which says Valve has a diversity crisis. So this person thinks that Valve has a diversity issue. So I would love to hear that. But don't worry, we got all kinds of information to come at us in this video. So let's play it. Let's start it off. We're going to react to about half of it. And then after we react to half of it, we'll catch up on Super Chats. And then we'll finish the other half of it. But let's see exactly what the issue is with Valve coming from, by the way, a white person. Isn't it amazing how it's always a white person complaining about a diversity issue with another company that's owned by another white guy? Okay. I mean, that's just the gaming industry at this point. All right, let's go.
Oh boy. Okay. So we've been working on this since August. There's been, I think, 16 interviews in total. Let's see how this goes. So, Valve, right? The company responsible.
This guy looks sick. I don't know, I don't know what it is, but he looks ill. Maybe he just doesn't get a lot of sleep.
For Half-Life, Portal, Left 4 Dead, Team Fortress, Counter-Strike, and more recently, all sorts of ambitious hardware projects as well. But arguably, its most significant role is that it's the custodian and the landlord of the largest PC games marketplace in the world. And because of that fact alone, how it makes decisions and who gets to make them is worth talking about. So with that in mind, let me ask you something. How does Valve make decisions? And who does get to make them? Those aren't necessarily the easiest questions to answer. What you may have heard is that Valve has no managers, no job titles even. In fact, if you work there, you alone get to decide what you'd like to work on. To put it another way, there are no bosses because everybody's the boss.
That sounds interesting. Usually that doesn't work out very well. When you have a too many chiefs, not enough Indian scenario, you know what I mean? It usually doesn't end up very well, but Valve is very successful. So I'm very curious as to how that actually works in real life.
That's the pitch, at least. Quick side note here, there is still a board of directors at Valve, and 2 of them are rumored to own actual super yachts crewed by about 20 people each. So let's not confuse this with a worker cooperative just yet, okay? But here's another thing you might...
Fucking base. Look at this guy. Hold on, wait.
Let's not...
Look at this son of a bitch, man. This is what it looks like to be wealthy. This guy is on his yacht playing his Steam Deck that his company designed. Talk about fucking... I'm jealous of it, bro. I could imagine what this guy must be feeling. Holy shit. In a pink shirt, no less. This man is chilling. God damn, man. Gabe is a legend. Absolutely based.
Confuse this with a worker cooperative just yet, okay? But here's another thing you might know about the company. It's opaque. A Valve interview is a rare, treasured thing, and when they do happen, they tend to be about a very specific product or some grand thing about the future of games and technology. And as a result, it's not a company that's typically being challenged on how it treats its staff or whether that 30% cut it's taking from most games being sold through Steam is actually a fair deal. If you've watched our most recent investigation into the third...
Who gives a fuck if it's a fair deal? It's capitalism, bro. Who gives a shit whether or not 30% cut from Steam is fair or not? At the end of the day, Steam has solidified itself as the place to sell your game digitally. If you want to sell your game to the most amount of people on the PC platform, you have to go through Steam. And capitalism dictates that your fairness goes out the fucking window. Because if you want to hang with the big boys and the market decides that Steam is the big boy, then unfortunately for you, fairness kind of doesn't really give a fuck. You want fair? Go to Epic Games. I'm sure they're going to be very fair with you. But let's see how good your game does being Epic Games exclusive. Why don't you go ask Alan Wake 2, considering how much it's struggling to make a profit?
Party gambling sites that are plugged firmly into Counter-Strike Global Offensive, you'll know we were extremely keen to understand why these operations had been allowed to prosper by Valve over the years, despite all the controversy. Whose job was it to be on top of this stuff, and what kind of decisions had they been making? We didn't know. And in fact, as we worked on that video, we realized we didn't know much at all about how Valve operated.
You know what the beautiful thing is, though? You really don't have to know very much about how Valve operates because it's a private company, right? Aren't these the kind of people that always say private company, they could do what they want? Now, all of a sudden, they want to know what that private company is doing and they want to know all the information. Why? Because that company is actually successful and it's successful doing its own thing instead of being an ESG slave or a DEI slave. Now, keep in mind, SBI works with Valve. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but SBI does work with Valve. To what extent, I have no idea. But Valve is one of the partners over on SBI, at least before they took down their partner list. But at the end of the day, man, it's a private company. They don't have to answer to anybody. They don't have to answer to any investors, any DEI investors, ESG investors, nothing. They don't got to answer to anything. They do their own thing. And now all of a sudden people are curious as to how they operate. Why? Because they are successful? I don't know. It just seems odd to me.
Not really. And so we spent the last 6 months doing that work, interviewing 16 former and current Valve employees about whether or not this structureless utopia with no bosses and no bureaucracy truly exists. You're gonna have to forgive me for spoiling the answer up front here, but in short, for some people, it does, sort of. I've spoken to employees who have loved working there, who truly believe in the vision, and who describe Valve as a melting pot of some of the brightest minds in the games industry. But I've also spoken to others who've argued that although Valve may have a flat structure in theory, in reality, the power at Valve is anything but flat, leading to a workplace culture that 2 former employees compared to the Lord of the Flies.
Back off, man! I'm sick of your shit and so's my game!
Hiring, firing, and salary negotiations are all handled in an unconventional way, which I'm told has led to certain personality types and demographics benefiting much more than others. Now, you might argue that
the white
many
people
businesses have fallen foul of that particular issue, but the thing you need to know about Valve is that even by games industry standards, it has a gigantic diversity problem. This is
Oh my dude, I thought I was gonna hear about this 18 minutes in. You're hitting me with this at 3 minutes. You're hitting me with at 3 minutes. God damn it, man. Nobody cares, bro. No, here we go. 3 minutes in. 3 minutes, and it's like too many whites.
a company that has been unwilling or unable to hire people that properly reflect the world around it, despite the best efforts of some who've worked there over the years.
Who cares? Nobody cares, bro. Who cares? You know what their only concern should be? Their concern should not be hiring based on the world around them. Their concern is hire people who can do the fucking job. There's a reason why Valve and Steam are extremely successful, and it's not because they're looking to hire a person who fits a certain skin color criteria. They only care about whether or not you could do the job properly and meld properly with the company and its values. That's all they care about. The fact that you, a white guy, is out here saying that another company owned by a white guy is somehow having a diversity problem is hilarious to me. It's like, you of all people are really bringing this up. What, do you want to be a white savior so bad? It's insane.
Who have pushed for change. And so we're going to talk about the ways in which Valve's structure and its leadership have ultimately blocked that change from happening. These problems became even more apparent following the murder of George Floyd in 2020, leading to a lot of internal discussion at Valve about race, and culminating in a generous payout being made to each employee, allowing them to donate it as they saw fit. However, as you may have also noticed at the time,
What?
no public statement was made by Valve about Black Lives Matter, and it continues to be an employer of largely one demographic.
Why would they want to make a statement about Black Lives Matter? Actually, I know this video is a year old, but even when this video was made, the information was available, and you're choosing to ignore that information, Mr. British white guy, whose eyes are social distancing themselves. When you look at Black Lives Matter, you see a scam. It is 100% a scam. It's actually a good thing that Valve did not come out and make a statement about Black Lives Matter, because BLM was proven to be stealing money and using it to buy mansions. Guess where, genius? These 2 or 3 black women, the lesbians who were in charge of BLM, guess where they took all that fucking money to go buy mansions at? Guess where they did it? They bought mansions at a white neighborhood, sir. They bought mansions at a white neighborhood. They didn't go live with the black people. They went to those gated communities and they bought mansions in the white neighborhood to go hang out with Martha and eat biscuits. Nah, bro. Come on. You don't know this? You don't know this? This information was available well before you made this video. And you're asking Valve to make a statement about BLM, bro? Why would they do that? Why would they make a statement about a company that stole money from black people? Why would they do that? God, these people are fucking stupid, bro. These people are stupid. He's so retarded that his eyes are trying to get away from his brain, but they can't escape his skull. That's the problem.
You'll hear more about all of that in the second half of this video. But first, Valve is frankly unlike any other games company in the world. Let's talk.
Thank God. That's a good thing. That's why they're successful. They're not like any other company in the world. That's why they're successful. That's a good thing.
About why. This is Valve's official employee handbook, first leaked in 2012 and then officially published for anybody to read. It is, at least partially, meant as a recruitment tool, describing Valve as the best place to work on Earth and detailing its structure, approach to pay, and of course, how every desk at Valve has wheels, allowing you to roll yourself and all your stuff to wherever you'd feel you'd be most valuable. I think all of this is a really useful demonstration of how, at least in 2012, Valve wanted to be perceived as a company. It's not just a job you'll have if you work there, it's a fearless adventure in knowing what to do when no one's there telling you what to do. Again, this is meant to encourage more people to work at Valve, so it wasn't exactly...
It kind of sounds like their philosophy in designing video games, because if anybody's played Half-Life, that's exactly the kind of gameplay you experience. You jump into the game, nobody tells you what to do, nobody shows you where to go, you have to figure it out yourself. So it actually makes kind of sense. Makes a little bit of sense, just saying.
Going to open with "Don't work here, the aircons are..."
And why, of course, did he pick the pink highlighter? You guys are right. Why the pink highlighter of all of them?
Broken on the 14th floor, but there's something almost fanatic about the way in which it's written. So here's what I want to do. I want to go through this handbook some 10 years after it was published.
Let's hear how bad this company is.
What it got right and what it got wrong, according to the people we've spoken to. To do this, People Make Games has interviewed...
I'm sure that they didn't cherry pick the people who they spoke to. I'm sure that didn't happen. Right? I'm sure they picked a bunch of people who were definitely fair. Yeah, I'm sure.
Former and current employees of Valve under the condition of anonymity, allowing them to speak freely about their experiences without risking their careers, either within Valve or elsewhere. And so when you do hear quotes being read from those interviews, you'll instead be listening to voice actors that we've hired. Let's start right here. Welcome to Flatland. Now, to quote Valve directly, when you're an entertainment company that spent the last decade going out of its way to recruit the most intelligent, innovative, talented people on Earth, telling them to sit at a desk and do what they're told obliterates 99% of their value. 99%, that sounds like quite a lot. Take that, most video games companies. Most company org charts look something like this, right? You've got a bunch of employees down at the bottom here, all in different departments, doing different things, and they've got their own managers, who've got their own managers, and so on and so forth, until you get right to the very top, where a CEO or someone with a similar title leads the company. When anyone higher up makes a decision, that's then meant to trickle down through the ranks and be acted upon by the employees below. Now,
but what is so bad about a company saying that they want to hire the most intelligent people in the world to work in the gaming industry? Sounds to me that they have a very strict hiring process with extremely merit-based requirements. that most people are not going to be able to successfully adhere to, which I don't see a problem with that. It seems like this is the Ivy League of gaming. So why wouldn't you want, like, why is that not okay? I don't see why that's a bad thing.
Valve claims to be doing something totally different. Here, people don't have job titles and nobody's a manager, so instead of your typical hierarchy, it promises a flattened company structure in which employees are meant to be making their own decisions based on what they believe will benefit the company as a whole. Want to fix that problem that's aggravating you about Steam, or maybe throw around some ideas for a new Portal game, or perhaps you're interested in Steam VR? Well, the pitch here is that you can do any of those things. Just wheel your desk over to the relevant team, and if there isn't one, make your own.
When I worked there, there was this thing we would tell people when they'd come and talk to the company.
Sounds pretty interesting.
We think we're the largest structuralist company in the world. At least within the games industry, I think that's definitely true.
We interviewed people all the time, and one of the goals was to understand if they could succeed in that type of environment. Not everyone can.
There's just as much structure as you might find in any other company of its.
That is so true, because listen, most people, I'll put it to you like this. A lot of people say they love freedom, but many people do not thrive in freedom, because freedom requires that you be responsible for yourself and everything that you do. And a lot of people do not like to have that level of accountability on themselves. So they like being told what to do. They like working in a job-like scenario where they have X, Y, Z to do, clock in, clock out kind of structure. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't like that level of freedom. Most people can't even motivate themselves to do half of the things they got to do in real life, let alone at a job. So giving most people that level of freedom at a job is probably not going to end up very well. So giving people that level of structure is where, you know, you kind of get the undisciplined people to be able to kind of get their own discipline through the job itself. So I can see why they have such a rigorous interview process, because like he said, most people can't do that. In terms of the voice, I see you guys saying AI voice. I mean, he said that they're going to be using voice actors or whatever. They're going to be using voice actors and not the actual voices of the people they interviewed, because some of the people they interviewed are still working at Valve and they don't want to be fired. So there's that. Anyway.
Size. The key difference is that the structure isn't written down in a way that it becomes immovable. People take.
Hey, Adam Sage, I hate you for your comment, Adam Sage. I hate you, man. Adam Sage, you're breaking my heart. Where's the comment? Where's the let me bring it up. Hold on. Fuck, chat's moving too fast. Look at this. So everyone moved their desk away from Half-Life 3, bro. God, that hurts. That hurts. Can you move your desks back? Can you activate the wheels and move your desk back to the Half-Life 3 section? Please, for the love of God. Can we go back and damn, man, that hurts.
Take on different roles that you would see at a traditional company, but those roles are temporary. It's not like you define your value over the entire course of your career there as just a project manager or whatever it is. You're not just one thing.
Valve can be this extremely attractive place to work as a result, with this inherent sense of freedom, great pay, an on-site gym filled with personal trainers, company vacations to Hawaii, and the opportunity to work.
Wait, they got a gym with personal trainers there? That's insane, bro. All right, after a certain point, we got to relax a little.
On some of games' most beloved titles, but you need to be the right fit. That's something that came up time and time again in the interviews that we've had.
I see where he's going with this. I already see, you guys ready? I already see where he's going with this entire narrative, because he's going to build it up about how Valve is this exclusive club that only the right fit of people are allowed to get in. And he's going to say at some point that the right fit of people seems to be white people, and only white people, especially the higher you go up. As you go to the top of Valve, he's going to probably say it gets wider and wider and wider, and that only the right kind of people are allowed in. He's trying to build this narrative of exclusion, right? And how it's only for white people. But let's see. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see.
And if you've watched our video on classism in the games industry, you know that term just begs to be unpicked and scrutinized. Here's how the handbook puts it. If we start adding people to the company who aren't as capable as we are at operating as high-powered, self-directed, senior decision makers, then lots of the stuff discussed in this book will stop working. Whereas one former employee told me he believed there was even a maximum number of potential Valve employees spread across the globe right now, and that number is perhaps somewhere around 10,000 people.
Maybe that number is off by a factor of 2 or 4, but it's not off by a factor of 10 or 100.
I don't know that I've ever heard somebody in video games make that kind of claim before, that only 0.0000125% of the world's entire population would have what it takes to work alongside them. It says something, I think, about Valve's company culture. It's the kind of thing you might expect a Silicon Valley employee to say, maybe, or, I don't know, a Navy SEAL.
You still have to come with the mental preparation.
Yeah, but have you done what Navy SEALs do to train, motherfucker? Yeah, like Navy SEAls absolutely have a right to say some exclusionary shit like that. Just like Valve has a right to say some exclusionary shit like that. You know what it is, man? It's people who know they can never meet the requirements. People who know that they can't hang with the best of the best in the world. And so they want to make it seem like you being exclusionary due to your overwhelming skill in this particular genre, which is gaming, that somehow is bad, and you should feel bad for not letting them in. It's like, bro, if you don't have the skill to fucking hang with the best of the best, then get the fuck out. It's quite simply that. We unfortunately live in a world where too many entitled fucking lazy brats are thinking to themselves, oh, you won't let me in? You think I can't hang with it? No, you can't. You clearly can't. You didn't show that you can. So get out. Right? I mean, what kind of fucking comparison is that, bro? Have you done what the Navy SEALs can do? Have you seen their training regimen? You're out of your mind if you think that's even close. Because guess what? As much as you want to fucking try to push yourself in there, just like nobody wants some soy cuck in the Navy SEALs, nobody wants someone who's incapable of doing the job properly and exceptionally at Valve. Because for all intents and purposes, Valve is the fucking Navy SEALs of the gaming industry. That's what it is. Valve is the Navy SEALs. They are the ones who absolutely earned every single right to say you're not good enough to work here. And it doesn't have to do with your skin color. It has to do with whether or not you can fucking do the job. Because unfortunately for you, and again, this is just the facts, Valve is the #1 fucking digital retailer in the world, especially when it comes to gaming. And they make their own games on top of that. They have some of the most popular games still to this day. Counter-Strike is disgustingly popular. Disgustingly popular. I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on Dota 2 a little bit, but still, Dota 2 is still pretty popular also. They have extremely popular IPs, extremely popular video games that many people have loved for decades. And on top of that, they're also a top-tier retailer. And then on top of that, now they're getting into the console market with the Steam Deck. I mean, they are who they are for a reason. And you're asking to dilute them all because what? You want another black person in there? Bro, the black guy will get in there if he could do the job properly. Just like the white guy could get in there if he does the job properly. Simple, plain and simple. That's all it is. The fact that you're focusing on diversity and claiming that it's elitism to keep certain people out and try to make it about skin color when it's all based on merit, you're out of your fucking mind, bro. And this is where participation trophies come into play.
That allows you to get through difficult circumstances.
But for the time being, back to how this works in practice. Let's say you work at Valve and you want to, I don't know.
Ryan says Counter-Strike has a huge underage gambling problem. Hypnotic, bad comparison. How is that a bad comparison for Valve? I'm talking about Valve, the company. Counter-Strike is extremely popular amongst adults as well. There are a multitude of different games. Every mobile game has an underage problem. You realize that every mobile game on the market has underage kids buying shit that they should not be buying. Who's the fault of that? Is that the fault of Valve, or is that the fault of the parents? Again, I'm not absolving Valve from that, but ultimately this is a problem that's affecting all these games that have microtransactions. Fortnite especially. Fortnite got kids buying up skins left and right because they're taking their mommy and daddy's credit cards and they're buying them up left and right. But when I'm talking about Counter-Strike, I'm talking about the game and what it means to the industry and its legacy in the industry and how it cemented Valve as a company that not only can do digital retailing, but also develop their own video games and be successful at that too.
Make a game about a quiet lad who runs around smacking disgusting crabs with his crowbar. Maybe you need an artist and a programmer to help get you started. And if that's the case, you'll...
Alice says, but sometimes companies intentionally target kids. Yeah, I don't think they're targeting kids with fucking Counter-Strike, in my opinion. I think that Fortnite 100% targets kids more than Counter-Strike, in my opinion. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how it looks. Just from an aesthetic point of view, they're night and day. Whoops. There you go.
You usually need to go out into the rest of Valve and recruit the right people onto the project yourself. If you're able to convince those people to work on this thing with you instead of whatever it was that they were working on before, then great. Wheel all your desks together and get started. To begin with, nobody's necessarily leading the project, but let's say at some point you scale up and instead of 3 people working on this, there's 20. Who keeps everyone moving in the same direction? Because wait a minute, didn't we just say Valve doesn't do managers? The thing is, bigger projects like this do still need some sort of organization to function. They need what Valve describes as team leads. It's just these roles are meant to be more fluid than at other companies.
It isn't true to say there's no management at Valve. It's just there's no institutionalized management. There are some people at Valve, I'd say a small number of people, who are great natural managers. There are also people at Valve that have that de facto role but aren't necessarily great at it. And that's true at any company. It's just that at Valve, it's sort of a secret who's who. And so when people are bad managers, it can take a very long time for that to be addressed. Sometimes the way that's addressed is the project goes down in flames and that person doesn't become a de facto manager again.
Other employees...
All right, which manager are we blaming for Half-Life 3? Which manager are we blaming for Half-Life 3? I want to know right now. I want to know which manager is responsible for us not getting Half-Life 3 when we should have got Half-Life 3 ages ago. I want to know who's responsible. Oh, did we get rated? Hey, shout out to Carolyn. Carolyn rated us. She's clapping our cheeks right now. Shout out to Kara. I appreciate you. Welcome. Welcome. Apparently, Valve has a diversity problem. Kara, I know you use Steam. Apparently, you are supporting white supremacy. And everybody you just rated with supports white supremacy as well. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But no, I want to see who's the manager that said no Half-Life 3. So we can fucking yell at them.
I spoke to suggested that in most cases you do actually know who's leading the bigger projects because it's typically someone who's been at Valve for a long time. And so although it might not be written down anywhere, there is in fact a clear hierarchy in place. But let's think about some of the other things that managers are ordinarily responsible for: hiring, firing, performance reviews, and salary negotiations. You know what? I'm going to jump straight to that last one because I think it's really important to understand about Valve. Let's talk about stat ranking. If you've heard of this concept before, it might be in relation to Microsoft, who used its own version of stat ranking to measure the performance of its employees from sometime around the early 2000s to 2013, by which point it had become an intensely controversial practice within the company. Valve's co-founders, Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington, were both ex-Microsoft, it's worth pointing out. But it's not a one-for-one comparison. Valve stat ranking is very much its own thing. Here's how it works. Typically...
Yes, I know Steam is what delayed Half-Life 3. I know. Once they got big in digital retailing, I know.
A starting salary at Valve has been described to me as being extremely competitive for a video games gig, but also when compared to the likes of Amazon and Microsoft, who both have headquarters close to Valve's own in Bellevue, Washington. And this salary that you start with is then adjusted annually via what's known as the stat ranking process, although COVID has gotten in the way of this in more recent years. In a typical year, however, from about October onwards, employees are invited into meetings with a handful of other co-workers in which they're asked to evaluate the performance of several of their other colleagues based on 4 separate metrics: skill level, productivity, group contribution, and product contribution. You can read Valve's own definitions for each of these in the employee handbook.
Mostly everybody participates in the ranking if they want to.
Oh, so merit? So merit? It's based on the merit of the employee? Gee, I know that sounds like something strange that we're not used to hearing these days. I know. It's very, very odd.
Participate. We generally have groups of 4 to 6 people in each meeting, and usually they're ranking 10 employees at a time. Those 10 employees being ranked are generally all people that those in the meeting have worked with through the year.
Once enough of these meetings have taken place, everybody at Valve should have been ranked by at least 2 separate groups, meaning that you end up with this giant list of every single employee at the company ranked in order by how highly their peers have rated them. Valve then uses that list to sort all of the employees into different bandings. So here's everyone that's overperforming, here's everyone that met expectations, and here are the folks that are currently underperforming.
They were somewhat stressful meetings in terms of, ranking people. It's stressful, but
Sounds good to me. Sounds like you're holding people accountable. That's what it sounds like to me. So the people who are being lazy gets to be ranked by their peers. Sounds like a good thing to me. Call them out publicly. Make them, shame those motherfuckers. Be like, listen, you're not carrying your weight. Fuck it.
But I can't think of a single time where I felt like people were being dishonest or had some kind of agenda or something. We tried to be detached from any personal feelings and be objective.
It was awkward because you had to rank your peers, but actually I think the exercise made sense to the people coming out of the room.
I think, as with a lot of things at Valve, it's very easy for the people who work really well inside these systems to brush aside concerns about them. Because it's true that for a lot of people, if they have a certain type of personality, they're probably doing very well. It's not apparent to them the effect it has on people who have a different psychological profile or a different level of perceived security within the company.
In January, employees then receive an automated email from Valve President Gabe Newell that says, hey, this is your new salary and here's how much you're getting paid as a bonus. I'm told, more recently at least, that those bonuses have calmed down in favor of higher salaries, but in the past, it wasn't unheard of for that bonus to be the equivalent of your entire salary in one go if you performed really highly.
Wow.
And if the company has had a particularly profitable year. Alternatively, if you've ranked poorly, then you may find that you're now getting paid less as a result. Although almost everyone I spoke to said that trying to figure out the exact relationship between your performance that year and these numbers that you've ended up with is surprisingly tricky.
You never knew what that meant. All you knew was I got a bonus that was really great last year, but then this year it's half as good. Does that mean I did way worse? Does it mean the company hasn't done as well this year and so bonuses are lower?
From the conversations I've had, this layer of mystery surrounding pay seems to come from two separate directions. On one hand, you've got Valve as a company deciding that stat ranking just works best when they don't then explain their working out at the end of the process. One former employee believed that by doing this, it stopped people from trying to game the system too much. And on the other hand, there's confusion because Valve employees just don't really talk to each other about their salaries and compare notes.
American culture doesn't like talking about how much we're getting paid. You might talk with some of your closer friends about, like, did you get what you expected? But you never really talk about the specific numbers.
But I mean, like, a bonus is a bonus, right? So at the end of the day, it's something that you're not really expecting to be any sort of number. So at the end of the day, if it's a bonus based on your performance, and some of them could be as high as your entire salary, then I mean, what's the low ones? 1/3 of your salary? That still sounds pretty good for someone who might not be doing their job compared to other people who are ranking higher. So it's like, it's a bonus is literally just the word bonus, right? So if you're okay with your salary, which also it seems like they changed it so that the salaries are higher, so you're not as reliant on a bonus. You know what I mean? So at this point, if you're more so paid by your salary and the bonus is literally just a bonus, then at that point, try to do your best. That's basically it. If you're ranking so low amongst your peers, then clearly something must be wrong, right? Unless everybody has it out against you. Is that what you're going to try to convince people? I mean, I don't know. It's very interesting.
A few of the women did after some of us quit.
Oh, here we go. Wait,
it was
go back.
more of the case.
What about
You
the
get what
women?
you expected, but you never really talk about the specific numbers.
A few of the women did after some of us quit. And then it was more of the case of, holy they should definitely have paid you more.
We'll have more to say on gender and diversity issues at the company later on in this video. Interesting.
You realize that at multiple different parts of this video, he keeps telling you that he's going to talk about gender and diversity issues within this company because he knows that this is the entire reason why he's giving this context. He's building up this case that's going to lead to the eventual bang of, oh, Valve is just Valve is anti-diversity. Valve is too white. Valve is whatever. That's what he's building up to. This entire thing is building up to that.
Any Valve employee can log onto Steam's dashboard and see exactly how much revenue the company has earned through that marketplace whenever they like. That can be for a specific game or region, or just more generally, how much money did Steam make this year? And a couple of people I spoke to use that as a sort of litmus test for trying to decipher exactly what their pay packet meant and where in the ranking they might have landed.
You notice how he had the females say that they should have got paid more? It's like, bro, what are we in 2010 talking about the wage gap? Like, what the fuck is this, bro?
But all speculation aside, what everyone knows is this. The opinion of your co-workers has the potential to dramatically affect the way in which you're being compensated.
I've seen people who, by their nature, don't give a and say, I'm just going to work on the things I enjoy, and I trust that in the end, if I'm doing good work, it'll be fine. There are also plenty of people who, when faced with the dynamics of this, think, oh God, I better make sure I'm working on things that are perceived to be valuable.
A lot of people, including myself, did put a lot of weight on this throughout the year. So decisions that you made were through the lens of how am I going to be ranked against my peers at the end of the year? And this did have the effect of a lot of people making short-term decisions. You know, I don't want to spend 3 years with a shit ranking because I'm working on some long-term project that may or may not pay off.
One of the most interesting ways you could see it seeping in was when people specifically did riskier projects near the beginning of the year, and then they'd go back to the more well-known ones as it gets closer to review time, because recency bias would make people focus on that stuff.
I've heard a number of pros and cons when it comes to Valve stat ranking. On one hand, there's an argument that...
Listen, in every business, in literally every business, employees are going to focus on ways to maximize their payout. That's pretty normal, right? And you could talk about these different things. Oh, people were taking advantage of this system, that system, whatever. But in every single workforce, you're going to figure out your pay plan, and you're going to figure out how you can maximize your pay plan. I think that's pretty normal for employees to do that. I don't think that's necessarily as bad for, you know, anybody to try to maximize their own pay plan to the best of their ability. And if they figure out strategies that work in order to do that, then they're going to do it.
That helps incentivize some of the less enticing work.
We're getting close to the diversity part, so we're gonna catch up on super chats in a minute and then get to that.
Actually get done. Remember, this is a company that says you get to pick what you'd like to do. Well, if that's the case, you know, surely there's going to be some more boring or you know, less jazzy work that might get left to one side if it weren't for the fact that by stepping up and doing it, you may then get a bump when it comes to your stat ranking score later down the line. People might say, hey, that person was a team player this year. And alongside that, quite a few of the people I interviewed believed that it's no bad thing for Valve employees to be prioritizing work that is perceived as valuable to the company, because if you're grinding away on project after project that ultimately ends in disaster, then perhaps you shouldn't also be entitled to such a large slice of the pie. But here's an important question. What exactly does valuable mean to Valve? Does it mean financial success? That's certainly part of it. If you've helped ship Half-Life Alyx, perhaps that's something that can be partially quantified in terms of sales and revenue targets. That's not going to be the whole picture, but it's certainly a factor. However, when it comes to some of this other stuff listed in the handbook section on stat ranking, like how much has your coworker contributed to studio process, hiring, integrating people into the team, etc., well, suddenly that's a different kind of judgment call. What's valuable in this case depends much more on personal taste, or to put it another way, personal biases. I can't tell you how many women work at Valve, or people of color, or non-binary folks, or those who identify as LGBTQ.
All right, he's getting into the diversity shit. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to catch up on super chats really quick, and then we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of this video about Valve having a diversity crisis. Because now all that context is about to swing full circle. So let's catch up really quick.